Hello, friends, and welcome back to r/ProRevenge. Today we have another set of great stories about crazy people and their revenge. But before we start, if you're new here, don't forget to subscribe to the channel and turn on notifications so you don't miss a new video every single day. And our first story, pyramid scheme scammer ends up paying in the end. So about 6 or 7 years ago, I was trying to enlist in the military. I ended up not joining, but that's a story for another time. At this point, I was led to believe I was about 4 months away from leaving for boot camp. I was running out of savings and needed a part-time job for some spending cash while I waited around. So I did what any enterprising 20-something would do and searched Craigslist for jobs. I normally hate sales jobs, especially those based on commissions, but I figured it'd be a great way to earn some extra cash short-term. Found a few job listings that looked promising and put out some applications. A few days later, I get a call from David. David was opening up a new store and needed associates. He liked my resume and asked if I'd be available for an interview on Friday morning. I was very upfront with him and let him know that the distance was a bit more than I'd normally drive for a retail job and asked what he was offering for an hourly rate to see if it was worth the drive. He told me that they were planning on offering an hourly rate in the mid-teens, along with commission. So that seemed like an okay deal, and I agreed to be there Friday at 8 a.m. So Friday arrives as a cold, rainy day. I wear a nice shirt and tie, I drive in heavy traffic to the address David provided. I knew the area from a previous job and eventually found the strip mall I was looking for. However, I'm not seeing any signage for the company name that was listed. There is, however, one empty space with no signage and 2 people inside. Okay, maybe they haven't gotten the store set up yet. No big deal. I'd arrived early knowing how bad traffic can be in the area, and while I was in my car, I witnessed a young lady in business casual dress remove a sign from the window stating, "Retail space for rent, call 1-800 blah blah blah." Okay, a little weird, but maybe it's the first day in the space. So I walk in about 5 minutes early, and immediately my BS detector goes from yellow to the highest level black watch plaid. The tables are simple plastic folding chairs, the kind college kids would buy for beer pong while on a shopping trip at Target. The walls are plastered with laminated charts featuring tons of dollar signs, smiley faces from stock photos, and an organizational chart showing an all too familiar shape. A pyramid. Yeah, damn it. All right, might as well have some fun for a while to wait out traffic going home. So the young lady in the dress approaches me and introduces herself as Cindy. She welcomed me to company name and asked me to have a seat. She sat at her desk, another plastic table, and pretended to go through paperwork. However, she was really just shuffling papers around. So we get to chatting, and I ask her how long she's worked for David. She says she's been his secretary for about 6 months and that I'm gonna love it here. Eventually, a guy walks out of the back office, early 30s, clean cut, wearing an ill-fitting suit from JCPenney's. As he's walking over, all smiles. Cindy says, "Oh, Dennis, our newest recruit is here." The guy stops in his tracks and gives her a cold stare. "It's David, Cindy. We've been over this." He turns back to me and gives his brightest, hard-to-find good help these days smile. David sits me down and welcomes me, saying they're going to start with a group interview and has me sit down in a circle of chairs. Eventually, more people come in and sit down. David gets up and begins to thank us all for coming. He tells us about an exciting new opportunity from Cutco. He pulls out a set of knives and explains how with this company we can make as much money as we want, all while setting our own hours. He even pulls out a textbook saying how this company's revolutionary tactics have even been featured in college textbooks. He opened to a page, his hand covering parts of it, making sure we can all clearly see the words Cutco in large letters on the page. Sad to say, a lot of the other interviewees were very impressed by this. One pregnant girl seemed very excited that she could work around her pregnancy and upcoming birth. David was going on and on about how much money he's made and how hard workers will rise to the top quickly. At this point, David said he needed to take a quick phone call and gave us 5 minutes to have some coffee, chit-chat, whatever. As he stepped away, he left his college textbook behind him. Oops. So I picked it up, found the earmarked page, and read. As I thought, it was all about pyramid schemes, and it had Cutco as one of the largest examples. It goes on to talk about how these are essentially scams, not economically viable, etc., etc. So I decided to share this with all the group. I explained how pyramid schemes work and how he's just scamming us. They seemed incredulous, so I said when David gets back to ask him about what we needed to pay to get started. That finally got everyone to realize what was going on. So David walks in a few minutes later, and one of the girls in the group asked David what we need to get started. Well, all you'll need is your first set of knives to demonstrate. You can sell that on directly or have them order one and keep that as your demo kit. Doesn't matter. We just have to pay the startup fees for it. That's when all hell broke loose. One kid started to get up and tell him to go F himself, saying he's wasting our time and that he's an a-hole for trying to pull this crap. The pregnant girl's crying because she thought she'd finally found a place that would allow her to work despite being pregnant. David is clearly confused and flustered and asking who told him all this. When it becomes apparent that I'm the wrench in the machine, David gets upset and starts telling me to leave. People are yelling at David, David's yelling at me, Cindy's trying to tell everyone she never met David before today and didn't know what this bullcrap was. Eventually, we all walk out, leaving David behind. As I'm walking to the door, I see, leaning against the wall, the sign that was in the window before. Retail space for rent, call 1-800-blah-blah. As I get into my car, I dial the number. Eventually, I get through to a person and ask about the property for rent at the location of David's company. The nice lady on the phone apologized and said they just leased that property out. I asked if she knew how long the lease was for, as I was really interested in the property. She said she wasn't sure, they hadn't done the official paperwork yet. They were on their way to the space to sign everything with the leaseholder in a few hours. I told her everything that had happened to me and about David using the space for a pyramid scheme. She got extremely upset, saying this stuff happens all the time in the industry. They'll go to sign, and last minute the leaseholder will decide to opt out after using it for some fly-by-night operation. She thanked me for the info, and I thought that was the end of it. But I was wrong. A few weeks later, I received an email from David telling me how I ruined his life, about how the property management found out what was going on and weren't refunding his down payment on the space, saying he violated a clause in the paperwork he signed to hold the property, how he knew I was the one who called because I'm a terrible human being, etc., etc. Now he was out thousands for the space and supplies, how he only wanted to give us jobs and help us. It was a long, very angry email, with several things said about me and my mother. So I called 1-800-blah-blah again, spoke with the same lady I did before. She was very interested in an email from David where he essentially admitted to what he was trying to do, said it would help them in all their legal proceedings. And don't you know, I was more than happy to send that email along to her. Her lawyer said it should be an open and shut case at that point. I like to think I'm a helper. And our next story. Why you shouldn't brag about your illegal activities to people that don't like you much. I started renting a house about 5 years ago. I'd always lived in apartments and I was excited to finally have some space and privacy. This was ruined within the first week by my a-hole neighbor, and he made my 4 years at that house miserable. He's in his late 40s or early 50s, and despite seeming like a fully functional adult, he's never lived outside of his parents' home. He spends every possible minute cleaning or admiring his truck, so he practically lives in the driveway. When he isn't bragging about some a-hole move that he just pulled on someone, he's hitting on the wives and daughters of anyone on the street. I moved in during the winter and started noticing footsteps in my yard in the morning. I found out that he was walking into my yard to look in my window and see what I was watching or playing at night. I bought a simple security system and put a few cameras up, and this stopped. Then he started mowing my side yard. He would mow it the day after I did. I asked my landlord about this and was told that Mike, the creepy neighbor, considered it his property and kept arguing about the property line. It's just grass, so I let it go. If I had guests over, he would stare at them and sometimes make comments when I wasn't around to hear him. If I was in the backyard, he would have a reason to be in his backyard. If I was in the house or the front yard, he was in his driveway where he could see me in my living room. If I was mowing the yard, he would get out a lawn chair and sit and watch, putting it away as soon as I was done. It all came to a head when I caught him sending his dog into my front yard one morning, instead of letting it out into his fenced-in backyard like he normally would. I told him to stay on his side of the property line, and he said that he was going to break into my house and smash my cameras and computer. Cops were called, and he got off with a warning. Last fall, I told my landlord that I was going to move out. During the conversation, I found out that Mike was on workers' comp for an injury that he got at work, and that he was now bragging about how he was using his workers' comp checks to set up his own under-the-table landscaping business. My landlord, like most of the neighborhood, doesn't really like Mike. The landlord's son and family live across the street, and Mike has hit on the wife a few times over the years. I waited for a day when he had his new work truck and trailer with his name and number on the door, and I made a video of him working on his yard, carrying 50 bags of mulch and climbing ladders. I sent videos and pictures to the fraud department of the workers' comp office. Today I just found out that he was found guilty of fraud, ordered to pay back every dollar, and may end up in jail. I'm happily living in a new place, and I have a lot of land between me and the neighbors. Hey guys, thank you all for watching the video to the end, and I'll see you in the next one.